Hello friends. In today's Learn, Teach, Learn session, I'm going to cover one of my favorite books by the Heath brothers, Switch. How to Change Things When Change is Hard, written by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. The book is sprinkled with a lot of great ideas and is a breeze to read. As change agents and leaders, we are primarily in the business of causing, creating, and sustaining positive change. Now, there are three myths surrounding change, and the book has corresponding three surprises. Let's talk about them. Myth number one: people resist change. Surprise: what looks like people resistance is often lack of clarity. Surprise number two: when it comes to change, people are lazy. Surprise: what looks like laziness is often exhaustion. Surprise number three: at the root of all problems, we have people. Surprise: what looks like people problem is often situation problem. In his book, Happiness Hypothesis, Jonathan Haidt talks about the rider and the elephant, an analogy for the analytical and the emotional side of all human beings. The analytical side loves to spin around the wheels, think about all the things from different perspectives, what can go wrong and what can be the possible mitigation options. While the emotional side, the elephant, needs instant gratification and constant motivation. Hope is elephant's fuel. In the book, the Heath brothers talk about three things that needs to be done to cause successful change. One, direct the rider. Give clear instructions on what needs to be done. Two, motivate the elephant. Three, shape the path. Remove all the obstacles and impediments. Make it easier for the change to happen and sustain. Now let's drill into these three sections. So for directing the rider, there are three things that can be done, three mechanisms that you can use. One, focus on the bright spots. Basically, it means investigate what's working and do more of it. It's like the appreciative inquiry or solution focused brief theory, where you are focusing on what things are already working, use it and replicate it. Two, script the critical moves. It's good and important to look at the big picture, but at the same time, when you're trying to cause a change, you have to talk in terms of specific behaviors that are needed. And the third one in directing the rider is point to the destination. Talk about where we are going, why we are going, and why it's worth it. When you talk about the purpose and the destination postcards, it motivates people to move in that direction. Now let me share some of the stories that talk about how you can direct the rider. So the first story that comes to my mind, and I really enjoyed reading, is set up in 1960s in Vietnam. So there is an organization, Save the Children. It's an international organization. The Vietnamese government invited this organization to come set up their office in Vietnam and solve the malnutrition problem inflicting the children. So Jerry's turn in. He came to Vietnam. Now when he came there, he had limited budget, limited time. He had to solve that problem in 6 months and limited support. Now, conventional wisdom would be to talk about all the things that needs to be done. TBUs, true but useless. For instance, try to solve the poverty problem, give clean water, have sanitation and hygiene. Now, all of that is really important, but given the time periods that Jerry had, he didn't have that liberty of time and support. So what instead Jerry did was, he started looking at what things were already working. He started with the question, are there children from very poor family who are healthier? The answer that he got was, yes, there are. Now he started working with the community. The mothers were already motivated. The elephant was already motivated because they wanted their children to be healthier. So they worked with Jerry. They started looking at the families which had healthy children, and they noticed a pattern. Primarily two things came out. One, these families, instead of having a regular 2 meals a day, they were having 4 meals a day. So that made easier for the children to digest their food. The second thing that these families were doing was they were adding small shrimps and crabs from rice paddy fields and low-class food like sweet potato greens. Now, even though food like these were considered as low-class food, they were filled with nutritious value. Now, once this pattern was clear, Jerry, he understood that, just talking about this, just publishing guidelines is not going to be enough because knowledge itself doesn't change behavior. So what he did was he generated support at the grassroots level. He got these mothers together, created a community, and they started cooking together. And as word of mouth publicity, this idea spread village to village. And even after 10 years, Jerry had left Vietnam, this idea had stuck around. So in this story, you can clearly see that, instead of just talking about an abstract idea, how important it is to talk in specific terms. Now, let me share another story. This story is about two health researchers, Stephen Booth and Bill Reger. Now, these two guys were trying to find ways to persuade the American people to eat healthy. Being researchers, they already knew that they had to be very specific. Talking about generic things like you need to eat healthy is not going to be good enough. So they did an amazing thing. That was a fantastic idea they had. They called for a press conference. Now, they realized that to have a successful change, you need to appeal to both the rider and the elephant. So they did not just start with specific instructions. Before that, they demoed something to capture the attention of the elephant, the emotional side of people. They had a test tube which was filled with fat. And they basically said, you know what, this test tube filled with fat is exactly what you are consuming when you are drinking half a gallon of milk. Now, during their research, they had identified that in one of their eating patterns, most of the Americans drank milk, and while milk was a great source for calcium, it was also one of the biggest source of saturated fat. So they figured out that if the Americans moved to 1% fat milk, that could easily reduce the amount of fat that was getting consumed. So when they did this demo, they caught the attention of the media and public. And then they gave clear instructions. They said, they did not try to change the drinking behavior of American people. They did not say switch from milk to something else. They tried to change the purchasing behavior. They basically said, milk is good, but instead of consuming whole milk, go for the 1% milk. Again, clear instructions capturing the emotions of people and giving them a way to have that habit formed. Pointing to destination is all about talking about what things needs to be done to reach at certain place, having destination postcards. For instance, if you're talking to kids, talk about, oh, you are going to be grown up, you're going to be in 3rd grade, or you are going to be in the 4th grade, you need to do this and this to reach there. It motivates children to get to that stage. Now let's move to the second part. The second part about motivating the elephant. Again, the Heath brothers talk about 3 ways to motivate the elephant. 1, find the feeling. 2, shrink the change. Divide the change into smaller parts, into smaller chunks, so that the elephant is not spooked. If you start with big changes that needs to be done, often the elephant is demoralized. And the third one is grow your people, create an identity, have people move from fixed mindset to the growth mindset. Let me again share a story from this section. This story is about John Stegner. Now, John Stegner was responsible for the procurement in his company. He noticed that the company was procuring a lot of different types of gloves. In fact, to be precise, 424 types of different gloves ranging from $3 to $17. Many of them were of the same quality, serving the same purpose. And he figured out that if they could streamline their procurement process, they can have a lot of savings done. So what John could have done is he could have prepared a presentation, prepared a spreadsheet with all the data and mathematical calculations. Now he figured out that would have appealed to the rider, but maybe the elephant would not have been motivated enough. So he thought of another idea. He had an intern collect all these different types of gloves. He price tagged them. He gathered all of it on a table to see them and called for an all executives meeting. Now when these executives came in the room, they saw a pile of gloves lying there and they saw the price tags and they were like, are we really crazy? Are we procuring gloves with such a disparate price tags and serving the same purpose? Now, John had the rider and the elephant both involved in this change, and he could easily get the change that he wanted. Moving to the third section, which is about shaping the path. The first one is tweak the environment. The second one is build habits, build good habits. And the third one is, sustain the change. Let's talk about tweaking the environment. How do you tweak the environment? Let's say, you are trying to eat good, eat healthy. So one idea that the book talks about is smaller containers mean you're eating small. So let's say you're going to eat popcorn. If you have a bigger container, you are going to fill it with a lot of popcorn or a lot of eating material that you're trying to use. So instead of that, go with small containers. That's tweaking the environment. Make the good behavior easy to follow and the bad behaviors difficult to follow. Talking about habits, build habits. So free the rider from making day-to-day regular decisions. Once you free the rider, the rider is not taxed. You are on autopilot for a lot of decisions that protects you from decision fatigue. In fact, one of the stories the book talks about is two researchers, they went into a mall. Now they had two setups. On one setup, they had 6 different types of jam. So many people came there, saw all the varieties of jam, and there was some purchasing. On the other setup, they had 24 different types of jam. So in fact, there were more people coming in there, but then because of the variety, it was difficult to take that decision, and that caused decision fatigue. In fact, the results were astonishing. So when you have less options, it's easier for people to act on that. Similarly, when you build good habits, when there are fewer decisions to make and you're working on autopilot, that frees up a lot of your time. And the third one is rally the herd. So once you have figured out a change, once you have found out a way to have that change going, rally your herd to ensure that it sticks. Use social proof, use things that are going good, publicize them, and that makes the good behavior even more prominent and easy to persist. So that's my quick summary on this great book. I hope you enjoyed it. See you again later. Thank you.